Okay. Well, good day, everybody. So here's a little bit of a surprise for you. You might see that I don't look like Mia, but I am here because as you've been following along, Mia has been doing these wonderful interviews with everybody, including myself. And one of the things is I said to Mia, I said, Mia, we want to hear your story because Mia has a remarkable, remarkable story, and it's how all this came to be. And so I said, Mia, let's get together and I let me do the interview. Let me interview you about this because your story is so phenomenal. So Mia, thank you for putting this together for everybody. I know it's been so powerful, and the guests that you've had on are just amazing.
Thank you so much, Darcy. It's wonderful,
Yeah.
of course, be interviewed by you. There's such a beautiful energy there that I love. So thank you. And I love this show very much.
Yeah. Well, it's been, like I said, you've brought on some of the best people and some of the most amazing stories and amazing tools, but you yourself have the most amazing story. And so, and just how it is that this is all created. So what I want to know, and I know what everybody else is who's listening is wants to know, what is your story? I mean, like, where did you get, how did this start? Like, what was the turning point for you? Like, what shifted in your life? Where were you? What happened? What made the difference? And what made you dive into this work?
Wow. Totally different than what I was going to say, now that you put it that way. So I started self-love practice 36 years ago. 36 years, yeah. I was in my early 20s, and um, my sister had just gotten married, and my mother and I were fighting once again over a diamond ring that my father left me when I was 14, and now I was 24, and that she still would not give me. And I had been married for 6 years and had my own home that we owned and all that. And she kept saying no. Part of it was she was wearing the diamond out of it herself. And in that experience, I guess I really learned from the gentleness of animals, because I just realized that in that experience, the thing that touched me the deepest in my tears, in my sorrow, that my mother and I could not connect on a and on a beautiful way of communicating or interacting with each other. And I was hysterically crying, and knowing that this was the moment in my life where, one, I was going to kick my mother out of my life, not being quite so close to her, and two, where I needed to pick up self love and the healing within on my emotional trauma from childhood. And my childhood was quite severe. Um, it was abusive. My mother was mentally ill, and that's part of her story before she passed. And my dog, a Japanese Akita, who's about 125 pounds, would not leave my side. It makes me cry thinking about him. I loved him so much. Sort of like my baby today, Sugar, a big baby that just had to nurture and love me. And that was really blessed to have both dogs in my life like that. And he was crying. He literally was crying, and he had his body up against me. And I knew I had to snap out of it, because one, it wasn't good for me and it wasn't good for my dog. And so I decided to take the space of creating a way into a new life. And so that's the beginning of my journey into self-love. Now, what was so remarkable about that is people didn't talk about it. Oprah started talking about it in the 80s, which is around this time that I'm talking about. And I actually did, like I did everything else, talking to God, show me, tell me how to do this. Where do I go? What do I do? And I heard the first thing was, tell yourself, I love you. And I was standing in the bathroom anyways, and I was like, are you serious? And I heard, tell yourself, I love you. And I said, I love you. and I bursted out crying. I felt like a fraud. I recognized in that moment that I was not connected to love for myself. And then I did something else really bizarre for me. Something that I recommend to others, but not at the time, was I started to self-nurture. I started to hug myself and rub myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're cracking up. You're just completely cracking up. And I didn't know where to go from there. It took me a while to get used to it. My path was slow, like everybody's. I didn't have an outside source like a coach. They didn't even really have those in. Tony Robbins awakened us towards the 1990s, as in what coaching was all about. And so on mainstream. And so I just took each step along the way that made me grow into me. And so that's where my journey of self-love began. And when I became a coach, when I turned 45, I left my husband, I became a coach, I wrote my first book. All this stuff happened boom, really fast, dropped me in the center of my life. And I brought self-love into coaching because I was a relationship coach with couples. And so what I recognized were they were struggling with their own ability to connect because they didn't like themselves enough. And so, or we use the word love themselves enough. And so brought that in, and I started teaching self-love along with relationships. And then some years later, probably 2015, so that was 2009. So 2015, 16, I started seeing a lot of coaches start to implement that in. Just like as I evolved in my work into the emotions and all that, now other coaches do too. It's really a beautiful thing that the world is waking up to the ability that we can love and nurture ourselves, and that we can heal the things that once held us back, and we can be who we actually want to be. So my journey.
And Mia, don't you think too? Oh, sorry, babe. Oh, because this is a really important point here. I want to make, because I've watched you evolve into how it is that you've been able to help so many people, because you don't help people just in love relationships, but in business, in their bodies, in their overall life. Because I know for you, like what you discovered is this self-love piece, like that's the core of it, because it's like once you get that right, then the business can flourish, the body can flourish. And so I've watched you evolve this self-love, and it's just been such a beautiful thing. But right, it all starts with the self-love, the amazing business, the amazing body.
It's interesting because I allowed myself on the path throughout my life to grow again. I always had a relationship with God. I remember having my first healings or manifesting when I was 4. And I remember my first detailed studying. We studied every single day. And we had to wake up, go to the bathroom, get dressed, sit at the end of the hallway. All the kids, there were 4 of us at the end of the hallway. And we had to read the Bible and then a spiritual interpretation of it, which was a metaphysical book called Science and Health with the Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. And so the format of metaphysics was we were Christian Scientists. And so when I left Christian Science, I kept my education, my healing, and I've expanded into a very well-rounded shamanic type of environment. But along the way, I also, when I got married at 18 and then went to nursing school right away, I also started a frozen food company with my husband at the time of many years, my children's father. It was brilliant. You could never say no to me. There's always a way, not to be pig-headed or stubborn, but creation is so beautiful that there's always a way, an answer to everything. And so I would find the ways, the hows. That's how I live off of energy, it feels like. So some cars take gasoline, I take energy. And so it's not anyone else's energy, it's the energy that I get to create for myself. Most people say you've been through so much. You've had cancer 3 different times. You've had this, you've had that, you've crossed over, you've come back. And what did you learn? And what I learned is I got a lot more work to do here on this planet, but I get to show the way that I've learned. So I keep hearing that all mankind, because we all have a soul, we're human and we're soul, all that there is a way to teach mankind how to heal instantly and to bring in life. It's a natural process. And it starts with the self-love, and then it goes into the emotional intelligence, because once we get the crap out of the way, our soul and spirit connect so fast. And the information is like a computer, like boom, 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 it's right there. And that's one reason why I keep doing what I do. But I also believe that time and energy are limitless, because in the divine world, it's limitless, right? And so it's also linear. So we can move through each space. We don't generally miss something because we're able to put it in when it absolutely needs to go into our life experience. So you asked about the business and all that. And so I feel like I didn't go into like clinical psychology and all that stuff. I didn't want to have a construct that told me I could only teach so much. I could only work a certain way. And I love that you brought up about the business. I'm also a book publisher and this or that. And that's simply because I can do it. I have the ability. And so when people come to me, they don't just come to me with, how do I love myself deeper? If they come to me because they need to make a quota of, say, $7 or $8 million a fiscal year to stay employed at a company, we get rid of all the fears, and which is what? Self-love, right? So it's all intertwined. Everything is intertwined.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things too that I love that you bring to this. So, right, like you said, it's, where people wonder, like, why is it that I'm not having the business breakthroughs, or like, I want to publish a book. But I think what most people don't see just yet, it's like, we are capable of doing and being and having all those things, that book, that business. But then it's like, why isn't it not quite what I want it to be yet? But you're able to see and help and heal people through that process. But when we get this piece, that self-love piece, and we remember that, right? And that's where that happens. That's where that magic happens. And you're able to help those people have those breakthroughs with their business, with their relationships, with their bodies. Like I said, I've known you long enough now to watch you help people have such breakthroughs in their limitations by helping them with this part here. It's been extraordinary.
Thank you.
So
it's the heart. Yeah.
I have another question for you. So I know, we've all been on this journey, and you're still on the journey, right? Because we're still always doing the work. And you brought up about the cancer. And I know that, so many people have dealt with that as well. But I know for you, like, as I know you, like, I've watched you through this process of it take you on an even deeper level of self-love. Can you share about that? Because I know this has been a journey. It's like, I know you like reach a peak, if you will, and then it's like God's like, let's take you deeper into self-love. How has you managing through a diagnosis of cancer several times, how has that taken your self-love to the next level?
It was really, to talk about this and to talk about it this way, I don't know if I'll get emotional and get teary-eyed. And for those of you watching, that's simply a space of emotional gratitude for me and beauty. It's not that I feel sorry for myself. It's like, wow, I got to experience that. And so that's the beautiful thing. when I was diagnosed in 2020, the first time, um, my husband asked me, did I want to die? And I was very irritated with that question. And then a couple days later, he said to me, does your soul want to leave? And I said, this is why I married this man. He talks my talk. And so I sat with that a couple days and I recognized that I was exhausted. And so part of me, I guess, was trying to find its way out. And when I recognized that, I felt the drudgery even of that childhood lost as a little girl. I had a very close sister friend that we had just parted ways after 10 years, about 5 years, 8 years, approximately 8 to 10 years, because she got kind of demonic and dark and turned against my children and then against me. And so I had to part ways with that, but I loved her, right? And I still love her, but I will never be in her space, ever allow her in mine. So with that experience, of course I was exhausted. I feared her darkness at that point. I remember taking my son to Sicily and waking up, feeling her in my room and reaching out, because it's 8 hours behind, reaching out to some of my girlfriends, spiritual friends, mystics on the East Coast, and going, get this away from me. I need help now. And so it's been a journey. I healed cancer the first time. They were sending me fast into having, we're in COVID. They were sending me fast into having a mastectomy because I refused radiation and I wasn't keen on chemotherapy. I wasn't keen on having my breast removed, but they were like, you're at a state where it's serious. The breast was not looking normal. And I had 5 tumors and one of them was 11.63. So in that space of time, I woke up right before my surgery to do my physical, and I heard, there's another way. And I was like, okay, Father, there's another way. I call God Father. I always have since I was a little girl. It brought me great comfort. So whether you say God, creator, source, whatever, I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's just the way I speak. And so I again went on that journey. And so all of it happened at the same time as my husband said, does your soul want to leave? So I knew Mia, who's been an energy healer for years, who's played with energy since I was a kid. I needed to have a conversation and it needed to happen now. And so I got all my words together, very simple, my idea structure. And I've never called God personally the universe. I do now, but I never did before. And so I did it all in caps. I could see it running across like a teleprompter in my head. I stood outside where I do a lot of energy work on this gorgeous island in Washington. And I just said, God, the universe, I'm not going to die. You're not going to take me out of here, or I don't think you're going to take me out. I'm doing your work and I need a new piece of my soul now. And I listed off 5 things. One of them was vitality, and the others are rather personal. And 2 of them I don't even remember, which is okay. And so,
okay.
Done deal. That's it. It was a very short conversation. Energy was flowing through me. I knew it was done. It was complete. The healing had taken place. And so the next day, I started hyperventilating like cancer patients do. Our bodies naturally, it can't take the stress of what's going on with its body as cancer starts to consume the body or the host. And so I said, it's okay, body. We've got this. You don't have to hyperventilate anymore. It stopped immediately and it's never returned. Even though I had a couple of other reoccurrences, never returned. Then the next day, so day 2, my face changed from gray and haggard to light and bright. I used to carry and sometimes still do a light on my forehead where people say, are you wearing something on your forehead? And I'm just like, now I guess I'm a unicorn, just throw them off. It's like, I don't know. And so the doctor said, I told him, I said, my breast is shrinking and reducing and looks normal. And he said, no, it doesn't. You just think it does. And I said, no, meet me on Zoom. And we were doing the telehealth stuff. And so I showed him, I pulled down my bra and he said, that's not the same breast. And I said, I'm telling you, I'm having a healing. And I said, so this was 1 week in. And I said, I need to have an MRI. And he said, well, no, that's too expensive. Let's do an ultrasound first. And so we did that. 1 month later, it showed 50% reduced. And in that time, the radiology doctor kept calling from Seattle into the little teleplace that I was at and said, redo it, ask her all the questions again and redo it. And I'm watching the screen and I'm like, this is so beautiful. You know, who thinks like this kind of stuff during a traumatic experience, right? And I'm like, wow, what is that beautiful line going like that? And the lady goes, that's blood flow in one of your tumors. And inside I'm like, thank you, Father, you're healing me. So one of the things that on the 4th time, the doctor came in and he said, just very, very, you have substantial reduction in the size of your tumors. And we have blood flow in number 6, because they look at the face of the clock and that's how they name the tumors. And we need to do a biopsy. And I'm like, okay, have your people call my people. But inside I'm going, there's no biopsy. I'm having a healing. You're being blasphemous, literally, you know? So a month later, I had the MRI and 89% of the tumors were gone. 2 of them had already disappeared. Number 6 was gone. So it was 6, 8, 10, 11, and 12. And number 11 was gone, which was the foundation tumor. And the 11.63 shrunk down to 3 centimeters. And the other ones were way under 1 centimeter. So a month after that, I went cancer-free. And so I also had cervical cancer at the time. And I was like, okay, so the breast is more important. I can't handle all of this. I'll deal with one and then another. So during that last month or so, or actually during the time that I went cancer-free with everybody, I went into the gynecologist, the gynecology oncologist, and she said, do you realize you're having a miracle healing? And I said, yeah, but how do you know? And she said, I read your chart. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thinking, what are you talking about? And she said, and you used to be a nurse. And I said, yeah, but how do you know? And she said, I read your chart. And I said, it's not in the chart. She said, it's in the conversations. And I said, you read my chart. And so for the first time, I felt seen, right? So she said, let's get on the table. Yeah. And she said, first of all, you have to realize we have to do pre-surgery in order to do surgery because there's a thick layer of stuff. And she did a couple inches. And so I was like, okay. So I hop on the table. She starts the exam and she says, Mia, there's nothing in here but pink, fresh skin. Nothing. And that's what my breast showed too. It showed that I had a brand new nipple, that the cancer that was ridden had disappeared and it was new skin growth. So I was declared on both of them. She did a biopsy and the pap smear, and I was declared on both of them cancer-free at the same time. And never to ever have my cervix issue again. So what does that teach about love, right? And self-love, because it came back. So that was like a miracle thing. The doctor said, you guys, you have to write your book about how you did it. But I couldn't. I knew I wasn't resolved. And it came back a year, like 14 months later. And when you're told that you're cancer-free and then you have cancer, you go through the same trauma as the first time you hear it. It's not that it's new. And the third time I went through trauma too. So the holistic stuff, I thought, I'm so exhausted from all this. I have to do it a different way. And so I had to dig deeper. And I thought, okay, so I did studying, did more holistic stuff, didn't work, did chemo, and realized, well, this chemo journey is actually killing me. It almost killed me. And so I had to stop halfway through. I couldn't complete it. And the doctor said, I'm surprised you made it this long, because I was in the hospital more than I was out due to the chemo affecting me and having pneumonia and stuff. And so I was cancer-free when I finished those treatments. Again, no tumors at all, cancer-free. 4 months later, cancer again. What did I learn? Right. So during that second time, I cut out everything in my life, all the people that were distractive, all the relationships that didn't serve me. And I heard about getting my dog. And so I got this beautiful creature that taught me, because I kept asking, teach me, God, how to be and express unconditional love. And so he came into my life. And through that experience, I brought my husband back into my life, which was like all because of this learning unconditional love. And so one of my clients said, so what did you not? One thing that nobody likes to hear personally, not even a teacher, but especially maybe a teacher, but that's also ego, was, so what didn't you learn that it came back? And so, that's the ego going. And so I said, well, the thing is that this was the second time she said, that it had come back a second time. I said, what I learned was I needed to love myself enough that I wasn't going to allow myself to die. And then 4 months later, it came back, right? Again. So what do you say? You're like, what is this? Well, this time it was completely different. I was a different woman. And I had spent the last 3 years almost so focused like a monk instead of being the warrior. I actually turned wanting to kill cancer into wanting to love it out of my body and into a space that I said, I want to go to the Brzezinski Clinic, but it was way out of my financial league. And so we thought I had a way to go in, and then it looked like it wasn't going to happen financially. And I kept holding to, it's not the vehicle on how to get there, it's the result, the manifestation. And I held that so clearly. I even said to my husband when he was freaking out, we got to get you there. We got to get you there. It's not going to work. We got to get you. I said, calm down. What I recognize is it's not the vehicle, honey, or the mechanism. It's the result. And within a couple of weeks after that, my brother stepped forward and said, I'm going to pay for this. Now, for those of you to go, well, how expensive is it? We're talking between 10 and 17, 20,000 a month. So I'm on the lower end, but that was a demonstration, a manifestation. Things come to us. This is the manifesting queen right across from me here. Things come to us as we clear away our crap and become so clear that we just open our paths to giving and receiving. So every time I get something, so to speak, I manifest, I create, I celebrate it. And I've been doing that for years, but I celebrate it in a way that's different from most. If somebody was involved in that creation with me, I usually send them a gift so that they can celebrate with me, because that's how the humans work. So that's just how I've dealt with the cancer experience. And then to have it disappear or to have it go away is remarkable to see that. People are like, how can you be so happy and uplifted on this last time around? And I'm like, because it's leaving for good. And not because, in no other words than, I don't need the lessons anymore of cancer. And I've thought about the other people, and I just have to say it. So in my profession, we've lost many people to cancer and who've also had heart issues along the way. Debbie Ford died of cancer, a love person. Wayne Dyer, Louise Hayes. So we don't have to experience it. It's a soul's journey. It's each individual. So it could have been their journey that they did need to pass away from it. No judgments from anyone, no condemnations, how comes, finger pointings. We don't do that in love.
Yeah, Mia, it's such a beautiful story as it unfolds. And you have said something that I have never heard, and I really want to point it out again because it's that important. And you said about not hating the cancer, being angry at it, but to love it. And it chokes me up because how beautiful, what a beautiful statement, because it is about love, even in something like that might be something to be so upset with, of it, a tumor or the cancer or what, but still, like you said, it's all energy. And when we can shift the energy like that, and you're just changing that whole the whole frequency in your body, like it literally changes, and you've shown that time and time again, and how that just shifts it like that. So it's just so beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. And um so sorry, I just get really moved by what you shared, Mia. So and I know people that are listening will be equally as moved by that. So
one
of
thing
course, because I want to just keep talking and sharing forever. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing you asked me was, why did I create this series, right?
Yes.
And I created this series because, and I didn't know this, so this is, and not to be woo woo, but when you're in a specific natural flow that you create for yourself, or system, or path, or ease, and you listen, you're receiving information and you're going and creating from there, everything opens up. And I specifically heard, I think it was back in April, around the time that I started at the Brzezinski Clinic. I think that's when it started. I heard, you need to do a series on self-love. And I was like, wow, you mean I have to go back to the very beginning? Like, I didn't even remember it was 10 years. This is my 10-year anniversary of being a video show host. And my very first show was the Self-Love Summit. Now, before that, I just started on radio, and I had also been in media, like reporter stuff before that. So it was natural to do this stuff, right? And so I even forgot about being a reporter for a magazine until I started thinking about it just the other day, like, wow, I've really done this for a long time. And so I also heard it has to be, well, not it has to be, I heard the summer of self-love. And then that moved me to be like, that's the greatest thing ever. And what's coming out of that is a book that you all get to experience if you want. You can get the book on Amazon, and it's called The Summer of Love, and self-love. And it's beautiful. So that's why I created this, was because I was told to. This is what the people need, is going back. What I've noticed over time and in the online coaching industry, there are cycles. You hear people talking about pivot, this, that. I came up with a term in 2013, 14 called pod coaching. And that was having small groups of people at accelerated rates. And so what I hear now people talking about, even bigwigs, about pod coaching. And I'm like, woo, see, when there's one mind that you listen to, one creation, and I call it mind as in divine mind. And so when there's one creation, we all have access to it, to everything. But whoever grabs it and goes with it is the one that, gets to go with it. Sometimes we say is the winner, but it's not about winning. It's not about winning. It's about moving forward. So that's why I did this, because I heard people need this. We have to circle back around to our basics after the pandemic and all the garbage. We're in such an influx of imbalance on our banking, on our inflation, on everything else, that we have to go back to center, to be centered.
Yeah. Yes. Right. And I love how you said that about like going back, because sometimes too, as we evolve, and then just because we've evolved and now we're hearing from a whole new level of understanding, so to revisit this conversation, now for everybody at a newer level of understanding, just to hear it on a deeper level and experience it and feel it on a deeper level. So thank you so much for bringing this to all of us. I do want to ask you, Mia, too, what I'm going to just ask if there are three things that you could offer suggestions for anybody that's listening, just as they, maybe people are just beginning this journey or just ready to start, or maybe people are kind of in the middle, or maybe people a little bit more advanced. What can you offer? What can you share of I guess I want to say tool wise or
Yeah,
step wise to
beautiful.
dive
So
into expand self love.
thank you. Yes, I love that. I think I'm going to give a few more because I'm just going to go really fast through it. My free gift is the Mirror Mirror book, a step-by-step guide to a life that loves you back. So in there, you're going to hear about the mirror work. So mirror work is number one. This is for the more up-leveled, not up-leveled as in people, but work. We have our soft work and we have our intimate work that transform us. So the mirror work's important. I teach for in there also for the blind and the deaf. So everybody has the opportunity to still do the work. And what we're doing there is connecting to soul, looking at our shadows. We take those shadows and we heal them. The second one that I would recommend is the inner child work. That's so profound and so beautiful. The third one, and this is just one that's also a must, is create a routine, a morning structured routine to embrace yourself and allow yourself to have what you need to get you to the strength of I call it our craft. There's nothing witchy about it, or it could be, depending who you are. It's about being proficient at your everyday self so that everything moves smooth. And so then three quick ones that you can do every day would be, besides those, would be, what about journaling or creating something from gratitude? Declaring your gratitude is the highest state of vibration to the divine. And then oh, this is one of my favorites. So in cooking or preparing your food or anything you're doing great, recognize your greatness for it, why you're doing it, why you're taking care of yourself, because I'm worth it. I am amazing. And see how those words fit you while you're doing the practice, because people don't allow us to talk that way. But let me tell you, when you practice self-love and you get to the space where you can connect your greatness of who you are with even cooking your food in love so that you're consuming love, it changes everything. And that's where you'll start to begin to feel the self-love moving through you literally. Literally. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, man. I know, right? We could just keep talking forever. There's so many as you're talking, like, oh man, I want to know about this and this and this, and I will say too, of the things that Mia shared, and just even for me, I had never really done like mirror practice until I came into Mia's world, you know, and that for me has just really been really profound. So, Mia, thank you. Thank you. So for everybody that's listening, you know, like I said, Mia has put together just extraordinary series. All of her presenters are just amazing. So I hope that you'll get the opportunity to listen to everybody and take a little bit with you. And here is to loving you. Here's to your greatest you, Mia. Here's to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darcy. I appreciate it. And everyone, look at the book, the Summer of Self-Love, Exploring the Depths Within You. It's very important to explore the depths within you. And with that, thank you so much. Well, it doesn't want to turn off.